You may be seated. One other announcement I forgot to mention is starting this Monday from 9 to 12, Monday through Wednesday or through Thursday, is a kids' day camp that Devin is doing, and the staff's going to help lead that for the kids of Altamaha Baptist Church. And so there's a sign-up sheet. If you know somebody in the church that would like to have their children signed up for that, we'd love to get them signed up. I love the focus. It's nothing is greater than God. And we just sang about it. How great is our God? And the focus is for those 3 days to tell those kids there's nothing you're going to face or look for in life that is greater than God. So pray for us as we do that, and come and help with that if you can. And then on the Thursday, the 20th, a week from tomorrow, they're going to caravan to Summer Waves. And this will be for the kids that attended camp. So see Brother Devin if you're interested in that. Well, a couple weeks ago, I shared with you just some statistics while the guys were in Montana. And this is what I popped up on that Wednesday night. You can see it, 90% of the state is lost. Only 10% of the people identify as Christians. What they're needing in Montana is they're praying for 5 new churches to begin in each of the 7 major towns in the next 10 years. Montana was one of those places that seemed to be overlooked, as a lot of the out west states are. And the pastors that were there through the North American Mission Board and through what they call Send Relief, which is based out of Acts 11:29, and they sent relief to the brothers and sisters in the far region. And they sent from their church to send relief to them. And that's what Montana is saying. We need some relief and some partnering churches to help us reach the lost people in Montana. And so you see the major towns there: Billings, Bozeman, Livingston, Great Falls, Helena, Missoula, and Butte, Montana. We're praying for church planters. They're asking for people to leave where they are living and go to plant churches in these places. And we're praying for the churches to come and help. And we're one of those partnering churches. So what Josh is hoping to do is every summer take the graduating seniors on a mission trip, and he would love for this to be a place so that they can go see what it's like to go to an unchurched area and how difficult ministry is there. And the guys are going to share some things with you that I think will catch your attention, that some of the things we say here, they don't know there. And you'll hear them share their heart tonight. So I don't know what order they want to go in. I don't know who drew straws to go first. But, okay, Ray is pointing at Jeremy. And so so Jeremy was one that went. It was Josh, Jeremy, Gregory, and Ray. And the guys are going to share with you what they experienced in Montana. So, Jeremy, you come on.
So I think there's a slideshow. We want to show it first? All right, and then Ray will be next. So this is just the, I guess that's the front yard from the cabin where we was working at. It had rained one day, and you could see a rainbow out in the pasture from one side to the other with the background and the backdrop. You can see it there. Those water tanks is how we got water to the house. They didn't have running water. They had a big cistern, and there was a pipe that ran way off deep into a mountain somewhere. And you open the valve up, and the water just flew freely from the mountain and would come out this pipe, and we'd fill those tanks up, and then carry it back to the house, and you'd fill the cistern up, and then it was just like you had running water in your house, but it was water from the mountain, just pure cold water. And that back, we rebuilt or redecked a trailer so that he could put 3 of those tanks instead of 2, so he wouldn't have to make so many trips every day. but that's just us. This is behind the cabin. The main cabin was already built and for the most part finished. It still had some minor stuff to do, but we was sawing trees and cutting them down and cutting boards, kind of clearing the land a little bit because they're wanting to build a couple more bunkhouses out behind the building. The main cabin's there. This picture right here, that's the main cabin where we stayed and the actual retreat will be. That's Mr. Tommy there with the overalls on. And I'll tell you what, he was like our best friend. That first day, he was a hoot. We had a blast. We love him to death. He was a great, great guy. A whole lot of fun to be around. We went to Yellowstone on Friday. And I guess that's the tourist vehicles. That's how they get around in Yellowstone. That was a lookout. We went to a neighbor's cabin, which was a half a mile down the road or whatever. And we went out beside their house, and I'm going to tell y'all, that picture, it doesn't do justice. Not even close. You could see, that's the Yellowstone River behind us there, and you could see that whole valley for miles and miles and miles. It was unbelievable to view. Just can't explain it. Some buffalo at Yellowstone. There was a whole herd of buffalo come by us. It stopped traffic. We sat there for 10 or 15 minutes. We didn't know what was going on. And then I bet you there was, I guess they got in the road, and so they was herding them back off the road. But I bet there was 100 buffalo that they just walked right down the road, right by our vehicles. That was Old Faithful. Laying in the snow in July. So I don't know if y'all know or not, but so what this place was, the cabin is going to be a retreat for pastors to go to when, you know, they just need to get away and spend time with God and just, you know, they need a break. And so that's what this place is. And like I said, the pictures, it's not even close to do it justice. I tried to explain to Jessica kind of what it was like, and I told her it was a lot like I know a lot of us been to Smoky Mountains, been to Cades Cove. And it's like driving through Cades Cove to get to this cabin. But you're on a two-lane dirt trail, and you're by yourself. And it took about 45 minutes to get to the cabin. And there would be other cabins scattered around here and there, but there wasn't no other vehicles. I think we probably saw 3 vehicles the whole time we was there. And so you was way off in the middle of the mountains. It was unlike anywhere I'd ever been. It was really, really special, really cool place. It'd be a great place to send pastors when they need a retreat. I think I can't remember when he said it would be ready. It'd be pretty close. But anyway, Mr. Tommy, when we got there that day, I'll tell you about him a little bit. He told us he knew that we was there, you know, to work and to serve, and hopefully bless them with our work and our efforts. But he said he wanted us to take time while we was there to enjoy the mountains and spend time with God when we was up there. And I'll tell you what, it was easy to do. You could just take a break. We'd be sawing or cutting, working, and we could just take a break, and you could look off. And 40 miles off in the distance, through the pastures and all, and just the mountain range just crops up. They said it was 40 miles away. They called it the Crazy Mountains. But it was just a sight to behold. It was easy, to spend time with God when you was on break or, just the whole time you was there. So anyway, I'll let somebody else talk.
Josh wasn't here to set all this up for us, so we're just looking at each other, and whoever moves first goes, I guess. But we found out about this trip a while back. Josh said this was a visionary trip, and we were going to go see just how we could, if there was a chance, we could partner with some of these church planners and even the ministry that's taking place on the mountain with I think it's called I've got stuff wrote down, but now it may or may not come out. But Above Paradise Retreat, I think is the name of this place, and it is going to be a place set up for pastors who have been hurt or who are facing burnout or as we talk a little bit about it, you'll see there's a big need for this in Montana because the pastors really have a hard time, and of course they're not turning down. It's that Mr. Tommy that you saw, the guy that was in the overalls. He's 80 years old, and I'm telling you, he got out there and worked with us every day, and I mean he was amazing that his strength and endurance, but he actually was a pastor, and he said, thankfully, he said he was blessed. Him and his wife actually went out there. He was originally from Arkansas, but he went out there and planted a church and or helped some churches that had been planted, and he said, that he was blessed. He never was hurt like many of them are, but he had dealt with being in Montana as long as he was. He had dealt with so many pastors that really had a hard time, and he said that there were so many good ones that were falling away because just people can be hurtful sometimes, and it's sad to say, but many times the church is one of the worst places for them. So we're blessed to here. I grew up, I was born and raised here, and never have been too many places, for any length of time. And most of the places I've been is just like here. We have churches all over, and many of us grew up going to church. We knew the language, and we knew the just how the etiquette and how you act in a church. But it was just it was strange to me to hear stories about, we went out here and as Brother Bob had already mentioned, I mean, the majority of the state is lost. They don't have the language that we, when we may approach somebody about church or maybe witnessing to them or whatever, they know a little bit about it already. But there's many people out there that have never heard the gospel, never heard Jesus being mentioned. So I wanted to mention a little bit about some opportunities that we did find out are available, but I'm going to talk a little bit about going on about how we found out, that it's just so much different. That I think here in the best I could tell, I've tried to do some research today. There's 3,500 or 3,561 Southern Baptist congregations in Georgia. And the best I could tell, there's 140 in Montana. And I mean, it's, a big wide open country. And I mean, we have not quite half, but just about half that many in our own association. We just take it for granted. There's so many churches around here, and if you're looking for a church, it's not hard to find. But out there, there's the churches that are there. It's so wide open. They're a long way, and they have a big need for churches in different communities that can minister to those communities and all. But so we found out, that there was such and actually I guess I'll tell the story about it's my Sunday school class. I think's already heard this, but the Sunday we flew in Saturday night late, and we got up and went to church Sunday morning before we had ever seen where we were going to be staying and working that week. But so we got up and went to church at Expedition Church, and this is actually a church plant. Daryl Brunson is the pastor there, and he and his family were originally from Alabama, and they felt God's calling to go out there and plant a church, and so they planted this church in this community, and we were actually we didn't get in till like 1:30 their time that night, which would have been about 3:30 our time, I think. So we didn't go. We were supposed to stay at that church that night. They had set us up air mattresses and all that. Well, we decided we were going to stay in a motel room and not get there so late, not knowing where we were going and all. So we got there really early to take up these beds and all that they had set up for us, and we didn't know that their schedule was kind of like my wife would probably tell you maybe the schedule that I would go on. Their church started at 10:30ish. They had coffee and a little light snacks and stuff beforehand, and whenever it looked like the fellowship was dwindling down some, the pastor eased towards the sanctuary, and they started singing. But anyway, so while we were there that morning, this guy came in, and he had on just jeans and a shirt, and he had on this field jacket is what I call it. It was, he was ex-military. He was a veteran, and he came walking in with his dog. And this is inside the church now, and he walked right in there to the fellowship hall where we were all sitting around drinking coffee and eating. And, his dog come up, and he spoke to us, and some people petted the dog and all. And after a little while, if the dog wasn't getting attention, she'd bark. And it was just odd, like not what you see in church many times. But so he walked back to the front and started talking to somebody else, and they told us the pastor, Daryl, he was telling us a little backstory about this guy. He moved out there. He was I think a Vietnam veteran, but he had PTSD, and he had mental issues, and he had went out there and he had told the pastor, he had run off anybody that's ever been close to him, his family, his mental issues were so bad that they just couldn't be around him anymore. And so this guy's out there all alone and by himself, and I think he kind of wanted it that way. But to make a long story short, he got to telling us that they met him one day just on the side of the road or whatever, and they had an opportunity to start building a relationship with him. And over time, they would invite him to different things they were doing, and maybe if they had food left over, they'd take it to him or whatever. So they built this relationship with this guy. And I'm not sure if I don't think that they said he was a believer yet, but he had been attending church regular, and they said he's usually the first one to get there. And, he brings his dog with him, and they were fine with that. But the pastor was telling us that he said the more I got to know him, he would tell me a little bit more about his life, and he said that he needed medication, and he had to go to a doctor's appointment to get his medication refilled, and he didn't have a way to get there. And he said, well, I'll take you. And he said, well, will that be great? So he said, he took him and he told him, he said, well, let me know if you need a ride to the doctor again, and I'll take you. And he said that he asked him, he said, well, why are you doing this? And he said, well, I'm a pastor of a church, and I want to help you and stuff like that. So he said, well, I was going to a church, and they wouldn't help me, so I just quit going. He said, well, I'm gonna do whatever I can to minister to you. And so he built a relationship with this guy, and when he asked him, why do you do this? It led into an opportunity to share the gospel with him. And that was something else we learned. We actually, so I mentioned Darrell. He was the pastor of Expedition Church, and Mr. Tommy that we keep talking about, he's a member of this church. And so they kind of are, they're all in partnership with this retreat up on the mountain, but we also talked to a guy named Joel Murphy, and he is the associate pastor at Expedition Church, and he was actually from Macon, Georgia, and he and his family moved out there a year and a half ago, I think, to help with church plants, and so we got to talk to him, and he really kind of gave us a lot of insight on some opportunities and how it is, and he was telling us, he said, he said, with me coming up, I grew up in Georgia, and it's kind of like we all, probably have, we would meet together with family or friends or church family or whatever and have barbecues every so often, just gather at people's houses or at the church or whatever. He said, these people are a lot different. They're not really open to outsiders coming in like we would be here, He said, I was thinking about a time when my family was having a cookout and cousin so-and-so brought a friend and didn't ask anybody, and he said it wasn't any problem. He said, these people are different, if they welcome you into their home and then I bring a stranger and don't tell them, it's going to be, really frowned upon. So I say all that to say that he was telling us that's really the biggest hurdle they have is trying to build relationships. And it doesn't happen in a day. Building a relationship takes a long time. And so I was just thinking about stuff that we'd heard and as far as looking at how we would be able to help. And we kept hearing, and we actually, and I can't remember the pastor's name. The Lord just worked it out. The last Thursday we were there. We went to Yellowstone and we had a really early flight the next morning, and it was a pretty good ride to the airport. So one of these pastors got a hold of another pastor closer to town, closer to the airport. I think 15 minutes from the airport or whatever. And he said, "Yeah, tell them to come stay here. We've got a couple of showers and several beds." And so he just opened his church up to us and let us stay there that night. But we actually got to talk to him too, and he kind of sounded the same way as far as, we need help. We need help building relationships with people. We need people that can go out and build relationships, or at least find out some information on the people that we're trying to reach. But it just seemed like the common thing we kept hearing is, and I'm going to read it in Matthew 9, 37. Then Jesus said to his disciples, "The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few." We've all heard that, and it's easy to take for granted around here, but you see it out there. You see that there's really a need for churches and for gospel preachers out there, and people being willing to invest in others, and so as I was thinking about what we could talk about tonight, that kept coming to me. But if you, I'm gonna go a little bit before that in Matthew 9 I'm going to read 35 through, well, I'm going to just read 35 through 38. It says, Jesus went through all the towns and villages, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom, and healing every disease and sickness. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them, because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. And that word compassion just kept coming out, and it's, you know, Jesus really, we saw, everybody knows that the last, the shortest verse in the Bible was Jesus wept. Well, Jesus wept over these people because they truly needed to know him, and there was just the task was so huge, and there wasn't but one of him. So, he made a perfect plan for how he was going to build his church, and that plan is still in place today, is learn about Jesus and make disciples and teach others that can in turn teach others, and that's still the case today. But so he said they were like a sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, "The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into his harvest field." And that's still, that's the case here in Wayne County, no doubt. But we have seen a place that it's really, it looks like a task that's not possible. But with God, all things are possible. And I think Ray might tell us a quote about that guy told us about a vision he had before. But so I won't get into all that, but I did want to share a story about, so after we left church that Sunday, we met Mr. Tommy for the first time, and this fella, I've already told you he's 80 years old, so he told us in church that day, this ear is completely deaf. I have a hearing aid in this ear, but I can't always guarantee you I'm going to hear what you're saying. So and he wasn't lying, he couldn't hear. So he was going to ride with us and show us how we were going to get to where we were going. Well, after church, we wanted to go eat. So he went to eat with us at this restaurant, and they sat us down at the bar. There wasn't any room, so we were all sitting here at the bar, and the bartender took our order of what we were going to eat. And so she went and put our order in, and she came back, and she says, "What are you guys doing out here? Y'all fishing?" And Josh said, "Yeah, we're fishing for men." Well, remind you that they don't know anything about, a lot of them don't know anything about the Bible. That Josh was saying that out of the Bible, but yeah, that didn't come across just right with her. Well, the old man that I was telling you about, he couldn't hear a train if it was going through here right now, but he heard that, and he said, "Now, son, you're going to have to explain that to her." So Josh, in his young wisdom, he did his best to explain that, and I don't think she ever, but it did make us feel better when she said, "Well, I didn't think y'all looked that way." And I said, "Well, praise the Lord." So I did want to add that, though, because we take for granted around here we can say stuff like that, and most of the time people know, "Oh, that I've heard that in church before." And we did. I think Josh had asked her, "Well, where do you go to church?" "Well, I don't really go to church." He said, "Well, have you ever been to church?" She said, "Well, I work on Sunday, so I can't go to church." And she said, "But I grew up kind of, I guess you could say I'm Catholic." And they had told us that many of them that did have a church background, they were Catholic. But I'm not here to say anything about them right now. But I said all that to say that she really didn't know a whole lot about the Bible, and you could just tell, that. So he had told her about the church we had just left from, and said, "Well, if you get an opportunity, you need to go. We heard a word straight from the Bible today, and so we know he preaches out the gospel out of the Bible." So he had told her to go to that church. But so getting back to compassion, I looked up what the meaning for compassion. It's sympathetic pity and concern for the suffering or misfortunes of others. And I already told you about Jesus had compassion on these people because he knew they were lost, and there was such a great task of getting getting his gospel out to them. We have the same, there again, we have the same problem here, you know, and we do, hopefully everybody tries to be a shining light for others through no matter what we do, but I guess what I'm getting at is I think a place to start is just pray for compassion. Pray that God will lead us to have the same kind of compassion for the lost that Jesus had here in His Word, and so we can start there. You know, God, work in my own heart. Show me where you can use me. It may be right here in Madrid Springs, or you may be called to one of these opportunities I'm about to mention in Montana. But so Joel Murphy, I was telling y'all, we met him we met him that day at church, but we didn't see him again until the last day we were working on the mountain that Wednesday, and I guess I got to confess, Ray and Jeremy were over there working hard on trying to tear up a old tree house that the old man wanted down, and he had told us he'd like to have it down, but he thought it was too dangerous. So, you know, that sounded like a good task for those two. So one of them said, "Watch this," I think. But while they were working, I had an opportunity just listening to Joel and Josh talk for a few minutes. We were about to have church right there for a minute, and I think Ray and Jeremy said, "Are y'all going to work or what?" And I said, "Well, we're having church over here." So I had the opportunity to talk a little bit more, and he started telling me some of their ideas. I said, "Well, what is your vision for reaching others in Montana?" And I mean, they've got plans in place, and that was really surprising to me. I would have to stumble around, you know, it'd be hard for me to come up with something right off the cuff. But he got to telling us, he said, "You know, there's these certain communities and people groups we're wanting to reach, and we need people to go out and just go out and find out where they hang out, find out what they do for fun, find out what kind of interest they have." He said, "You know, it may be something somebody could come over here for a week or 2 weeks or something and just hang out in this one place and visit Yellowstone some and stuff, and just find out a little bit about the people." And so that's an opportunity we have. Also, the partnership with Above Paradise Retreat, the Pastor's Retreat, that's going to be there's going to be a lot of opportunities there. They're going to need helpers there when they bring in. I think they said they were going to try to bring in maybe 4 groups of pastors at the time, and this is a pastor and his wife, and they're not there for vacation. They you know, it's they are there because you know, just to get away and to reconnect with each other and with God, and they have a plan in place about how they're going to find out who really needs to be there, and who's. He was telling us about some phone calls he had while we were there, you know, people wanting to know how close they were to Yellowstone and stuff like that. And so he said, we knew that was going to come up. But so anyway, he really has a heart. And there again, I go back to Mr. Tommy came and he preached in churches and planted churches. He went out there hitchhiking. He was telling us a story about, and he didn't really even know where he was going, and it was amazing to hear his story about just following God out there. And he was, I think, a pastor there 43 years, and they still live. He actually, his wife is in bad health, and she can't travel up there to that place anymore. But that was their vision, you know, was to eventually. And he also said, you know, I was hoping 10 years ago we'd have had this thing open. And he said, but God's timing is always perfect, and it just wasn't God's timing. But he said that I just lost my train of thought there. But so we have an opportunity to they're not going to charge the pastors anything. The I guess you would call it organization or partnership or whatever. they want to, as long as the pastor can get out there, they have to be able to provide their own means to get out there, but they're going to stay a week and eat. I mean, they eat really good. There was a host family that stayed there and fed us, and that they're going to be, so many weeks or months out of the year, they're going to be there to do that. And so they need our prayers. They need monetary donations, and it's possible they could need volunteers for a host family, from time to time. But so that's another opportunity. And also, Joel was telling us about, and this is just how God works in missions. I always think it's all complicated, but they just through making relationships, building relationships with people. He's met this guy that's a maintenance man inside of Yellowstone, and he lives there year round, and he is a believer. And he said, I'm the only one that I know of. And he said that they were hoping to, and this really blew my mind, is that they said they always need camp hosts. Any of y'all that like to camp, they always need camp hosts in some of the campgrounds inside of Yellowstone. And he said maybe we could get other believers to go be camp hosts, and they could kind of come alongside that man and kind of encourage him, and at the same time, help him spread the gospel throughout the people that work there. And, just stuff like that I never think about. But, so, yeah, there's all kind of opportunities, and I don't know, hopefully I hadn't taken up too much time and made a little bit of sense, but yeah, that was an opportunity that I never, really even saw coming, and so it is. It's these people who are out there. They have definitely followed God's lead out there, and they have sacrificed. I mean, they pretty much said, God, here I am. We're going to go out there and trust you to do it, and it's just amazing to see how He's working through them out there, and it's going to be fun to see how we can come alongside of them and partner with them. So, thank y'all.
What does Brother Bob say when he's really got 30 minutes, but he acts like he's fixing to wind it down? Let me say that here. We've got 30 more minutes. In closing, yeah, here we go. No, it won't take me 30 minutes, I promise you. But I want to share a few things. Josh was, he said, as Brother Bob said, was not able to be here. And so I asked him to text a few things that he would have shared if he was here. Some of those things have already been mentioned, but one thing that he reminded me that I had forgotten and I thought I wouldn't forget, but I can't remember, maybe Gregory or Jeremy can remind me who said it, but I think it was a pastor, it might have been Mr. Tommy. He says, God doesn't give us our size projects, because we saw some pretty big projects going on out there. Might have been Mr. Tommy, because he was doing this with not a lot of money. He was a bivocational pastor all of his life, so he worked and just him sharing with us some. He was not a super wealthy man as far as finances go, but he was making something happen that people would pay thousands of dollars to go stay at. This place was amazing that he had built off the land, just a lot by himself, him and his wife. But that place we stayed was probably 4,000 square foot, 5,000, would y'all say? I mean, it was big. And he had done most of that work by cutting those trees down, those Douglas fir trees, sawing them at his own sawmill he had there, and building that place, because he had a heart for pastors that needed a place to go, get away. And he knew that was what God wanted him to do, and he is getting to see it come to pass. They were going to get their first pastors there here pretty soon. It wasn't quite ready, but they're going to go ahead and start taking some in that really need it. So just to see that that God-sized project going on that he knew he couldn't do on his own was amazing. Brother Bob shared the 7 major towns, in Montana that need, they just need the Lord. There is, a possible another trip coming up in August, 16th through the 22nd. They have a big rodeo, they have a bunch of big rodeos out there, you can imagine, but and they need Christian workers there to just serve and share the gospel. There's a big need. They don't have enough people. So, there's about, just, kind of tentative, but there may be about 3 spots left to go there. So if any of you guys are interested, see Josh. And Greg already shared about the Yellowstone National Park opportunity. I couldn't believe when he told us about the opportunity to be a camp host. I mean, how could that not be full? In Yellowstone, that's a place I would think anybody that was retired in camp, but he was really talking about need some believers out there to help him share the gospel, with those. So mainly a lot of what he was going to say has already been said. So I'll get into what part I was going to do. I think Jeremy said it was supposed to be a vision trip, for taking graduating seniors, and it was very good. I would recommend, if you got a child about graduating to get the opportunity, this would be a great place to go. Not a party boat, but a place to go and serve and just see. We get to see some beautiful sights around here, but you really get to see God's fingerprint out there, because that place, if those of you that been, is unbelievable. I've never been, so to me it was, I just was like, wow. In fact, I thought real hard about coming home, getting the kids and Ronnie and going back. I really thought about doing that, because I don't want them to miss the opportunity to get to see that. So anyway, if you hadn't been, there's a way to go. Probably just, if you can just get yourself out there, and be willing to serve, probably won't cost you a lot of money if that's an object. You can go and serve, and they really need folks out there again. So y'all heard it said we got there Saturday night late. If you go off with Josh, you're not going to get much sleep. That's all there is to it. He's 24 years old, and for somebody that's old as I am, and that's getting pretty old, I like sleep. But you don't get much with Josh. So I'm thinking, man, he's got us in bed at 3:30 in the morning, and he said we had to be at the church at 8:30. Well, you already heard Gregory say they didn't start till 10:30-ish. So we was there 2.5 or 3 hours early to stand around. I'm thinking, man, we could be sleeping, But anyway, so we did get to meet some good people and hear some things. And I'm thinking, you know what? This is going to be a hard service to stay awake in. I haven't fell asleep in church in a long time, but I'm thinking this is probably going to be the Sunday that I doze in church. And I hate to do this in front of a guest. I'm a guest here, and we sat right on the front row there, But let me tell you, that pastor preached a message, there ain't no way you could fall asleep. It was so good, and it was so powerful. And he preached from Isaiah 58, and he's just talking about, where they are, where our nation is, and he just says so many things. It's just God saying to the people, if you will do this, then I will do this. And if you'll go back, I'm not going to read it for time's sake. I had it open here, but go and read Isaiah 58 and just see what the Lord says, and it's so applicable to us today. If you'll do this, he promises to do this, and I know that he will. So anyway, great message, and then a good word. You heard him talk about Mr. Tommy. I think we were all just touched by Mr. Tommy. I related Tommy to Jack Lee at 80 years old, a cut up but full of wisdom. He was always cutting up, but when it come time to be serious, he was serious, and he meant, and you could just tell what he said had a lot of punch to it. He told us, and I think one of them mentioned this, but he said a lot of folks that come out there almost hear God speak, because here's what I think it is. There's no hustle and bustle at that place. It is the verse, be still and know that I'm God. It's real easy to be still out there and know that he is God, because you can see what he's done, and there's no traffic, there's no phone. Well, the phone did work, but there's nothing like that. The normal horns blowing or sirens, or as quiet as it is out here in our little neck of the woods, it's way quieter there. It's just in the middle of nowhere. So I think they get time to reflect, which is what he challenged us to do, and not make it just about work, but about reflection and what God can do through us. not only there, but what we can come back home and do. So it was very good. That was a good there. Let's see here. And he told us, he said, look, it's not this place that people come and hear from God. He said it's the atmosphere, because truly, you get along with God out there and listen to Him. Now, they told you a little bit what we did. We worked hard. We did get to go to Yellowstone one day, and that was kind of we rode around and looked. But the Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I think that's right. And then Thursday, we worked really hard those days. We cut Douglas fir trees, and they're big old trees. The ones we cut, most of them were. And then we had to he wanted now this guy's from the old school. You didn't waste anything. So you cut those trees, you took every limb off with the chainsaw. You sawed every limb off. You piled those limbs into a brush pile, and then you either cut the wood for firewood or you cut it for sawmill wood. So you didn't, and then on that mountain that he had a skid steer, but it wouldn't go up. So we had to tote those logs down and pile them up. So it really was hard work, but it was rewarding knowing that wood will go to build those cottages for those pastors to come and be able to, enjoy themselves there. Josh, I know of two, and it may have been three, but he had two or either three job offers while we were there. They found out he was a pastor, and do you need a job? I mean, they were serious, but they were kidding. We were like, no, he don't need a job. We answered for him that he didn't need a job. He had a big job ahead of him right here. But seriously, they need men and women. So like they said, we have churches all over here, and God has been good. We live in a wonderful part of the country that God is in, and we talk to folks every day. We're around folks that encourage us, but it's not that way out there. And so maybe if you could find time to just go, encourage them, pray, however you could see. But there's need there. So if you can't do anything else, you can definitely pray for them. And I want to say thank you, church, for allowing us to go and represent Autumn Hall Baptist Church. And then to my family, thank y'all for allowing me to go. Cole, thank you, buddy. But anyway, I do appreciate it, and that's all I have. Y'all, if you decide you think you may be interested, get with Josh or Brother Bob. They can pick you up there. Thank you.
Well, I'm so appreciative of those guys sharing. We are serious about wanting to be partners with the pastors in Montana. And as you heard, they need help. They're saying, please come if you're able. And they surround themselves with these big events. The rodeo in August is going to be an evangelistic event. It's their one shot to get everybody out from the mountains that come into the rodeo, and they throw gospel seed on them. So there's encouragement, there is evangelism, and they need help, and they're crying out, we need partners. We've got our Baptist Association. Brother Greg does a great job with that, and we meet with pastors, and we encourage one another, and I know what's going on at Calvary. I talked to Pete, and I know the different pastors we talk. Those guys may not get to see each other for quite a while because their churches are 50 to 100 miles apart. You could imagine an association where the churches are 50 miles apart. You feel alone, you feel isolated, and when a church like Altima Hall goes out there to say, hey, we are aware that you're here, we want to encourage you, you keep on with the work, what a great opportunity. So here's what people say, well, shouldn't we be doing this in Wayne County? And absolutely we should. Missions is not this or that. Missions is both this and that. And for some, Montana's a good fit. For some, right here in Wayne County is a good fit. The state of Georgia, Jacksonville. And then we're looking to do international missions and go off. And people have said, well, how are we reaching people here every day? My answer is simple. It is you being Christ-like wherever you set foot in Wayne County. You are the missionary in Wayne County. But God does sometimes call us away. So we want to present, that is a quick opportunity. I know it's a quick turnaround, but August is open and they do need help. If you're interested, see Josh, see me, talk to us about that. And then I think the ticket prices out there are not too expensive right now. But we will be looking to possibly try to get out there 2 to 3 times a year. Not the same people, but you go, come back, tell us what's needed, we'll send another, and then come back, and we'll just try to get that going. So I wanted you to hear that. I wanted you to see that. If you want the inside skinny for what did happen that they couldn't share publicly, see those 3 guys, because there's things, they did very good. They didn't share some stuff. Ask them why Josh is turned backwards in one of the pictures. They'll be glad to share you, but share that off the church grounds, okay? Well, God bless you, folks. It's about 7:30. I'm going to wrap this up in prayer. Thank you for coming in tonight with us. Thank you, church. We're in this together. It's not, well, that's nice that they did that. We either send or go or leave ourselves and go stay. So you pray how God would have us be used out there. Let's pray. Father, thank you so much for the team that went to Montana. Lord, what a beautiful picture of your handiwork, dear God, because when we get around mountains like that and valleys like that, we realize how small we really are and how big you really are. And God, you love the people of Montana, and you want to see many come to Christ. Lord, we would love to hear that not 90% of Montana is lost, that 90% of Montana is saved. And so, God, you're calling us to partner in that. Would you show us how to go, when to go, show each one who should go, and Lord, just show us how to be involved in that. Thank you for keeping the guys safe. Thank you for this report, and thank you for calling us to come and join you where you are working. Lord, we love you and pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. God bless you, folks.